ahead and get started. We have a nice packed day for you, filled with great information related to LinkedIn. What I would request of you today is that you put away your electronics. I see everybody's kind of got out their phones and their computers. We have somebody here from Schneider, and she has given us her time, volunteered her time to be here today, so I'd really like to show her respect by getting out a piece of paper instead, a writing utensil. She is going to give some really good tips and tricks for navigating and utilizing LinkedIn. So why don't you go ahead and rustle that out before we get started. You're going to definitely want to take some notes. You have an assignment associated with LinkedIn. So what she says will be of importance to you, not only for your professional brand, but also the assignment. Before we get started, I'd like to ask the class about your successes at the career fair. Who wants to share a success you had? We've been hearing quite a bit. It's something we want to keep track of, celebrate. This is a time for you to put away the Midwest nice and talk to us about things you're proud of. Who made a good connection at the career fair? Yes, please, your name, your major, and tell us what it was.
My name's Felicia. I'm a marketing major. I yesterday had a Skype interview for Northwestern Mutual and received a second interview for an internship this summer.
Congratulations. And that came out of the career fair for you. Who else? Can you pass it? Thank you.
Matthew Vandeven in supply chain. I talked to Plexus, and I had a phone interview yesterday morning.
Wow.
So
do you know what's next?
Said about a week, so I'm waiting.
Okay. Pins and needles. Anybody else want to share? Good.
I'm Olivia, and I'm accounting. I actually, at the beginning of the week, got a call from Secure Insurance to have an interview in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. By any chance, did you get a $100 bill from them?
No, I did not.
Did you know that they were giving away $100 bills? Did anyone run into Secura? That was so fun. Sorry that you didn't get a $100 bill, but you got something better. Anyone else want to share career fair success now that we have it rolling? This is great stuff. All right. Well, what we're going to do then is dive right into the topic of the day, and that is LinkedIn, and we are so lucky to have Christy here. She is a subject matter expert on LinkedIn, so I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to take off running to get you oriented on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes? Awesome. All right. My name is Christy Saporsky, and I am the social media manager for corporate recruiting at Schneider. I've been with Schneider for it'll be 5 years in April. My background prior to coming to Schneider was public relations, so I graduated from UWGB. My major was communications. My emphasis was public relations. I did a lot of work with public schools, helping with branding and different areas of public relations from that aspect, and that kind of slowly weaved its way into social media as that started to become a bigger element of public relations. So started my career with Schneider when they didn't have a social media presence for what I do now, so kind of started things from the ground up. So it's been definitely exciting and a learning experience, but hoping to share with you today some of those things that I've learned along the way about LinkedIn.
So what we're going to do is start out with a video, and then Christy will continue on with the nuts and bolts.
If you're watching this, chances are good you want to get a job. You want to go from student to rising star, and you want to avoid eating the same meal over and over and over again. Good news, you're in the right place. That's right, LinkedIn. It's not just for top executives. It's not just for old people with heavy briefcases. It's for you, and it's the perfect place for you to start your professional story. Say you want to get a job in New York City. You've never been there before, but that's okay because you have LinkedIn on your side. You start by creating your profile. You give it love because you know it's what recruiters are looking for day and night. It's your resume that never sleeps. It's your flashing neon sign that says, hire me, for the love of all that is good in this world, hire me. Then you start making connections. Alumni working in New York? Yes. Recruiters at top companies in New York? Yes. Your mom's best friend? Yes. You start imagining whose shoes you want to walk in. You think, wow, this is a lot of deep stuff to consider. You shake yourself out of it and start searching for jobs. Whoa, that's a lot of jobs for students. Time to get down to business. You start to tailor your profile. You start applying. You feel empowered, in control, like you should be CEO. That gives you an idea. You look up all the CEOs of all the companies you want to work at. You see one of them went to your university. Then it hits you. You see a clear path from campus to career. You feel like you can see the future. You wonder if you're psychic. Should you start a hotline? No, back to plan A. You keep tailoring and connecting and applying, and before you know it, you start getting responses. First a few, then more, then an interview, and then you're hired. And that's when the real learning begins.
All right. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through the basics of building your LinkedIn profile. If you already have a LinkedIn profile, really helping you be able to beef that up so that you can stand out to potential employers. One thing that we didn't ask this group, how many of you already have LinkedIn profiles? Awesome. All right. I think that was more than the last class. So good. So for those of you who don't have one yet, hopefully you'll get some great tips on how to get yours started. And for those of you who have one, hopefully you'll get some good tips on how to make it even better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through sequentially what the profile looks like and what you need to do to get that set up. I use a lot of screenshots from Beth Lux, who is our representative that we work through with LinkedIn. I find that the LinkedIn representatives tend to overall have the best profiles out there, which makes sense. So I like to use them for a lot of conversations that I have and use them for examples. So the first thing I want to talk to you all about is your headline and your photo on your profiles. So one thing right off the bat, the same with just about any social media platform that you can think of, having a picture is going to help make you stand out and help you seem like a person. You can just have the avatar, but recruiters probably are going to be a little bit hesitant to reach out because they want to know there's an actual person behind that. That being said, you want to make sure that your picture that you have out there is professional. I've seen some really interesting profile pictures on LinkedIn, so just make sure that you're dressed professionally, be cognizant of what's behind you in your pictures, not something that's out at a bar. So just keep in mind, again, who that audience is going to be, who's going to be seeing your picture.
How many of you had your picture taken at the career fair, at the photo booth? Excellent. For those of you that have not, how many have yet to do their mock interview? You'll have the opportunity to have your photo taken at the mock interview as well. So we want to make sure that you do have a good professional photo to utilize for LinkedIn.
Can you guys see Beth's headline there? Otherwise, I can read it for you. So one of the things that you want to keep in mind, specific to your headline, is that if you don't put anything in, if you don't edit your headline, it's automatically going to default to whatever the title was at the most recent company that you've worked for. Again, it's not that this is necessarily horrible, but it doesn't make you stand out, and it doesn't give you that opportunity to really sell what you're looking for. When you send a connection request to someone, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but the very first thing that they're going to see come through their email is going to be your name and whatever your headline is. So Beth is, I forget what her exact title is. I don't know if it has it on there.
Nope, just LinkedIn.
But if she hadn't edited the headline, it would say, let's say, Beth Lux, Talent Acquisition Manager. But instead, she has in there transforming the way the world, I can't
Connects
even read
with
that.
talent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Transforming the way the world connects with talent. So something very unique about her.
Right, and it definitely stands out a little bit more. The other thing that you'll notice, and something that I encourage you to do when you're pulling your headline together, is that she included the keyword talent. So talent is a word that we find a lot when you're looking for recruiters, or if you're in the recruiting line of work. That's something that is a keyword term that we use quite frequently. So she put that into her headline to make sure that it would show up if people were doing searches on that. I would recommend for you guys and girls to think about what careers you're interested in and try to think of, what are some of the buzzwords that are out there for those careers. So if you're looking for a role in supply chain, you might want to be including something about freight or solutions or logistics, and there may be a way for you to be able to weave that into your headline. The other thing that you can do, and that I highly recommend doing when you're setting up your profile, is that you can create a custom URL. Jody, could you bring up your LinkedIn page?
Perhaps.
What happens when you create a LinkedIn profile is that LinkedIn just will default a URL to you. It'll say linkedin.com and a bunch of different numbers. It's kind of ugly and it really doesn't help you come up in searches, and it doesn't look really good if you have to put it on a resume. What you can do if you go onto your profile and you click on the little gear box right there, over on the right-hand side, thank you, you will see an option. Very first option is to update or edit your profile. So you click on that, you're going to get this little option to do whatever you want with your URL. I would recommend just first name, last name. Really easy, and again, it's going to help if people are doing specific searches for you, whether it be on LinkedIn or somewhere else on the internet. Again, making sure that you have this and take the opportunity to do this. It shows that you're taking the initiative, you're not being lazy, and it's going to look a lot better when you're putting that on a resume. And we'll talk about the importance of doing that in a little bit, but it's also going to help, if you're sending it on an email, just something that we can click through, and again, it just looks more professional.
For those of you that I've met with, you notice how long that LinkedIn URL was, so we talked about how important this feature is. One thing that you need to remember is you have to be very particular about making sure that that's the correct URL that you're putting on your resume. If you have one change that you accidentally make, an employer is going to go to a broken URL because this is your unique URL. So be very careful about that.
Okay. Any questions about the headline, what that should look like? Oh, actually, I think we have some examples of some headlines. So hopefully everybody can read that okay. But here are just a couple examples for college students that you could potentially think to use or maybe change a little bit, tweak to make specific to your interest or what you're looking for. One item that was brought up in another class that I think is really good to point out is that if you notice in the second bullet point, it says this person is a creative marketing student who's seeking a social media internship for summer of 2016. That is perfectly fine to do, but make sure that then you go and update that so that that doesn't say 2016 for the next 3 years. So just be cognizant if you're putting something like that in your headline, that you're keeping that updated. All right, so the next big piece of your LinkedIn profile that I want to talk to you about is your summary. So the summary is going to be the next section on your profile, and a lot of times I think it's really easy for people to get kind of confused and think that this has to be a copy of their resume. A lot of profiles that you see, the summary is just going to be kind of a laundry list of all the things that they've done, data points, and they get to be kind of boring. Summaries should be much more narrative. It should be creative. It should be fun. It should be easy for a recruiter to read, but it should tell about what you do and what you can bring to the table. Should definitely include those keywords. This is another great opportunity. If you can't find a real logical way to weave the keywords into your headline without it being obvious that that's what you're doing, this is another great place that you can be putting in those keywords to really help stand out and show a potential employer what you can bring to the table. For a lot of you, if you haven't had real-world practical work experience, you're going to find as we go through the LinkedIn profile and the different options that you have, that this is a great opportunity and a great place to showcase all of the classroom experiences that you've had, leadership through different sporting activities or different organizations, and ways that you can pull in those experiences that you've had in those settings and be able to make them relevant to an employer for the skills that they're looking for that might not show up on a resume or might not be as obvious.
As you start to look at summaries on different LinkedIn profiles, you may see them in first person or third person. Both are correct. It's your preference, but just be consistent throughout the summary and not be switching back and forth between first and third person.
Mm-hmm. And if everyone hopefully had a chance to read this, but if not, here's Beth's again. It says a little bit more, reads a little bit more narratively, and it does include a little something personal about her. It is okay to have something that's appropriate, but just a little personal snippet to include in there. It shows an employer and the other people that may be looking at your profile that you are a person, that you do have interests outside of just work, and just makes you more real. The other thing I would recommend, if you're not quite sure what you'd want to put or include in your summary, think about some individuals that are either local, that work in industries that you respect, or you can think of people from, large companies, Google, Apple, and think of who those, CEOs are, or people that you really respect, and go and look at their profiles and see how their summaries read. I think the best way to kind of get a feel for how yours should feel and what it should look like is to go out there and really do some research to see what other people have and how theirs read. And then you can kind of tweak it to your own personal style and experiences.
So I just want to reiterate, be very careful about the personal side that you add in, not making this a political platform. It's just like when you're networking, stay away from those hot topics that may have people turned off immediately and they won't continue on in your LinkedIn profile. Again, this is a professional page and you want them to see you for the professional side of yourself.
I think we had a really good example yesterday that we that we were shown of a real live profile that someone in the class had received a request from, and it was very, it was tense in moments. So definitely be mindful of who your audience is. So the education piece, there is an opportunity to talk a little bit about your education. This is where you're going to want to include very similar information as you would on your resume. Obviously, the schools that you attended, the years that you attended, the degree that you received, your graduation date. If you have a GPA that you're really proud of and you think helps you stand out, you can definitely put that in there. Your majors, minors, activities that you were involved in, any certificates that you earned, honors that you may have received, anything that will help you stand out, you can definitely include in your education. I believe it was in the last class, Jennifer made a really good point. Once you start typing in your university or your institution, LinkedIn will start to try to auto-populate that university for you. Make sure that you are spelling it correctly and that you do select the right link, because that's going to automatically open you up to being able to connect and network with other people from that institution, and also help you be found by individuals who are looking for alum from your institution. So just make sure that that autofills correctly.
And I would say the one thing that I've found is the date range that they give you. They give you the option to when you start to current, but what an employer would really be looking for is when will it end for you. So it asks you to either put the date or the year that you're currently in school or your graduation date. I'm suggesting that you put that graduation date in there so Christy would know when they could have you.
Exactly. Or if we're looking for somebody if we're specifically looking for an internship, we'd want to know, have you completed your freshman year? Do you still have some school that you're still going to? So again, it helps us when we're trying to figure out where you're at in your career search. So the experience section, the experience portion of your profile, it's going to look a little bit more like your resume. So this is where you're going to be including the places that you've worked, the times of employment, and you are going to want to include some of those really specific data points about what you did, your experiences, accomplishments, what you're really proud of there. But again, it doesn't have to be quite as dry and formal as a resume would be. There's still, there's still that social media aspect to LinkedIn, so you can be a little bit creative, but you want to make sure that you're doing it professionally. The nice thing about LinkedIn is that over the last couple of years, they've really added a lot of extra options for you to be able to find ways to highlight your work and the different things that you've done in a way that your resume can't. So you'll see this is another excerpt from Beth. She's got some of her experience in her, I think it's her current role. And then included, she also has a video that I believe she either helped create or it's specific to one of the initiatives that she led. So again, a great opportunity for you to be able to highlight something that you've done that you wouldn't be able to do in a resume. There's opportunities to add specific videos, PowerPoint presentations, awards that you've won, white papers, articles that you've published. They say PowerPoint presentations, those as well. And you can add those, and you can add them specifically to the roles that you're talking about. And again, if you think about your own experience and your own behavior when you're out on social media, when you come across profiles, you come across articles that have those videos and pictures, you tend to be a little more inclined to look a little bit further. The same thing with recruiters. Again, it just helps stand out and it makes you more interesting. So take the opportunity to do that for sure. And again, this is another way or another opportunity that you can plug in some of those keywords.
Christy, did you mention yet how much time your team spends
we
utilizing and
didn't.
looking at all of these extra things?
Yeah, so one of the things that, just to kind of help you guys hit home to really, why is it so important to make sure that your profiles are relevant, I would say that our recruiting team, and we do have a pretty big team, but across the board for the recruiters that we have here in Green Bay and in other areas of the country, we probably spend about 100 hours a week on LinkedIn. So, and we're doing searches by keywords, by universities, by experience, all sorts of things. So as we are going through this, there definitely is value for you guys to be going out there and making sure that your profiles are standing out, because I would also say that this puts you at an advantage because there are a lot of individuals that are just doing the absolute basics and going with the default options and just kind of going as is and not seeing the value in it. And this is really going to help you guys stand out.
Is there anything in particular between you all in the back and Christy that really does stand out in a LinkedIn profile that a student, this is the inside scoop maybe you can give them of those additional things that you can do?
Yeah, and actually I think do we have a slide on that? I believe we do. Kind of talk through that a little bit. If you want to go to the next, there we go. So a couple things with the additional information, and then I can speak to a couple things that specifically will help you stand out even in addition to this. So when you go to create the profile, you also have the opportunity, I think there's a default option. I believe the top two boxes will automatically default for you for language and volunteer experience. If you click on the show more option, you're going to see a bunch of more boxes show up, and these are just some of them. But what's nice is that these serve as templates that you can go into and add additional information. So again, as a college student coming out, you might be competing for jobs with people who have been in the workforce for years and may have more of that practical experience. But this is an opportunity to show that through volunteering activities, through different coursework that you've taken, different things that you've done while you've been in school, leadership activities that you may have. It's a way to pull through those skills and show employers that you may not have done this in a business setting, but you still have these skills, and this is the proof, and this is how you've done that. So definitely take the time to go in and fill out the additional information, find areas that are relevant to really help you stand out. Now, before we jump off of this, I think something that came up I'll hand over to Jody, because a couple good points came up in the last class specific to this.
So one of the things is related to your assignment. We're going to require that you add some additional sections. Obviously, we don't mind which ones you choose as long as you choose something other than language. If your native language is English, we don't want you to click on that and say, I speak English. If you have additional languages, again, we're looking for what sets you apart, what makes you different. Then we're okay with you putting languages in those additional languages that you might offer or bring to the table. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to ask is just kind of a fun fact, and then you can fill in. Does anyone have a patent in the room that they've submitted and got approved? There's some really cool categories here that you may not have thought of, and maybe this will push you to do something different and add it into your LinkedIn moving forward while you're here doing your college career.
Yeah. So, but going back, to what will really help you stand out. A couple of things that we've already talked about, having a headline that's going to grab my attention. You can do things with your background picture now, so you can make it just a little bit more colorful. I know it's a little more aesthetic, but it does kind of help pop out a little bit more. I would say, again, that summary. I've seen summaries that were 2 sentences long. I've seen some that are a novel. I think being able to find that happy medium that actually has relevant meat that really sells who you are, but then adding the additional media. I can't express how important that is, because then that gives us a little bit of an opportunity to see beyond just what you're telling me, kind of from a third-person view. Okay, this is what they're telling me, but this is through videos or coursework or pictures of things that they're doing. This is showing me what you can do.
We call that the evidence or the proof behind the statement.
Yes, exactly. So the more opportunities, and like I said, there's no lack of things that you can add, and it takes just a couple seconds, so really taking advantage of that. I would also say one area that and I can ask my colleagues in the back if they would agree, but I would say one of the things that I notice a lot is that the work experience sections tend to be really vague. Taking some time to just fill in what you did, your responsibilities, what you're proud of there. A lot of the profiles that I see will have a really short summary and the experience. It'll be 5 jobs that they've had, and it's literally just the company name and the years of employment. That tells me virtually nothing about what you've learned and what you're going to bring to the company. So again, taking the time to fill that out, taking the information from your resume, just tweaking it to make it a little bit more lively. Those are all things that you can do.
Do any of you in the room have any additional video, those sort of supplemental things that an employer would see in your profile right now? Okay, so that's something that you're definitely going to want to do. Christy is saying that her team spends nearly 100 hours, and those that stand out have these additional things that set them apart from the crowd. Do you two want to add anything that you've seen? I'll bring the mic up that could help these students when you're doing your LinkedIn scouring.
My name is Rose. I'm with Schneider. I'm a corporate recruiting manager specifically for the IT and technology areas. And we haven't really gotten there quite yet, but Christy's going to talk in a little bit more about being active in different groups and how to participate in groups. And I know especially for our technology folks that I work with and the hiring managers, a lot of times they will participate in those groups. So if they see someone who is really particularly active in a group, it might get their attention, and they'll bring that to me to, schedule for interviews and kind of reach out to and things like that. So I think there are other ways besides just, it's great to have your summary and your, work history and your resume and everything, but there's other ways that you can participate on LinkedIn too, to kind of get people's attention and make yourself stand out.
Hi, I'm Ann Mullen. I also am a corporate recruiter, and I work specifically with finance and a large group of the chief administration offices. I can say that I have some hiring managers that will specifically ask for certain schools. And so as we tie back to the alumni, make sure that you're putting your school in there, because that will tie back not just now, but in the future too, because there's hiring managers that will ask for alumni out of the schools, and so we're working from that aspect as well. And by the way, Oshkosh is one of the high ones.
Yes, thank you. I'll let you go into the groups while I go with them.
Yeah, so great segue into another aspect of your profile that you want to think about. And Jody will be able to tell you a little bit more, because I think this is also part of your assignment. But groups on LinkedIn are a great way to get involved and really start networking, and they serve a couple purposes. So one of the things that you can do within groups is you can see who else is in the groups, what companies they work for. A lot of times our recruiters will join groups and will post jobs out there. So it's a great opportunity to kind of see what's out there, see if there's other job opportunities, or what's going on in the industry. It's a great way to learn about the conversations that are taking place. You're going to go out to some of those groups, and you're going to see some people are interacting and they're asking questions and they're answering on a daily basis. And it'll even rank on the side, like how active people are, and so it can be kind of competitive. But like Rose was saying, we also have our recruiters and our hiring managers who go out to groups to see the conversations that are taking place, because we want to look for those individuals who are starting the conversations, who are answering the questions and answering them in a way that really makes us think and really makes sense. Those are the kind of people that stand out, because you start to be able to build yourself as a subject matter expert, and you can start to really help build that credibility that people are going to take notice of, and it's going to help you stand out. Now, I don't recommend going and just, asking a question for the sake of asking a question, or just, commenting if you really aren't sure. But I can guarantee that you all are subject matter experts in something, and there is a group out there, and there's a conversation taking place right now that you can be a part of. And again, it's really going to help you stand out. Now, there are a couple different ways. I know a lot of people who are just starting out in LinkedIn, they're a little bit intimidated because they really don't know which groups to follow or which companies to follow.
Can I get in?
Sure.
While you're talking.
And there's a couple different ways that you can go about finding groups. One of the things that you can do, and if you just go up to the search box up at the top and type in sales. So if you go to the search box that you have at the top, you can type in a job that you're interested in, a company name, a keyword, anything that you can think of, and anything that is related to that word on LinkedIn is going to show up. So you'll see jobs that are posted are going to show up. You'll be able to say people that have that particular word in their title or somewhere in their profile, and you'll also be able to see groups that are out there. So it'll give you just the top couple, and you can dig in to find some more. But this is one way that you can find the groups that are out there. Think about what you're interested in, the careers that you're potentially interested in. Again, if there's people out there that you really respect and want to know more about, you can put their names in there. You can get really creative, company names. That is one way to see what groups are out there.
Okay, well, let's talk about the assignment right now, because you are going to need to connect with or follow groups and companies. This is a really important way for you to be proactive and get out there and start connecting with those you have interest in. So we don't mind if you want to connect with one group and follow one company, or connect with two groups, but we will be checking on this. So really think about who you want to work with or connect with moving forward, and either follow companies or connect with groups. This happens to be a company.
All right, so once you select a company that you're interested in, you have a couple options. You can see, you can see who you're connected to. That's a member of the group. That's kind of a cool option. Gives you a little bit of a blurb about what that company is about. So if you check it out and you're like, yeah, I think I kind of want to be a part of this group, you can click on this Ask to Join button. If that says Join, then it's just an automatic approval. You can join the group. There are many groups now. They're trying to keep spam and other elements out of their groups. So a lot of times you have to click the Ask to Join, where a notification will be sent to one of the administrators, and usually just takes a couple hours to a couple days to get that approval to go through. But that's how you would join a group.
I think I'm going to ask to join that one.
Another way to figure out, or another way to try to investigate and find groups that you'd want to be involved in. Again, going back to think of those people, that you respect or that you'd want to emulate their career, and go out and look at their profile. Any public profile that's out on LinkedIn, if you scroll down to the bottom of their profile, you'll be able to see all of the groups that they're in. This is a great opportunity for you to see what conversations you should be getting involved in. If there's a CEO out there to a company that I really want to work for, I'm going to take a couple minutes and go to their LinkedIn page, go to the bottom, and I want to see what groups are they in. And maybe some of those groups are groups that I should be in, and there's conversations that'll be taking place. That's one of the things that our recruiters do and our hiring leaders do. If we know that, if Rose is hiring for an IT position and we're really struggling to get the talent pool, we're going to go out and start looking for, what are some of the IT groups that are out there that we can start getting involved in. And then we'll find individuals that have a good background and kind of what we're looking for, and we're going to go and we'll look at their profile to see what groups are they in. And it's just a great way, again, to continue to build your network and find out what's being said in the conversations that are taking place. So is this your profile? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So if you go onto Jody's profile, you can go all the way down, and you can actually click, and if you want to, you can see all the groups. But again, just a good opportunity to say, you know what, I really, I want to be doing what Jody's doing someday. How did she get started? What are some of the things, some of the groups that she's involved in, and how can I kind of start that process? Might be a good time to do that.
Has anybody in the room used the Find Alumni tool? This is a great way for you to hook up with people that you will have something in common with instantly. So if you go under the My Network tab and go to Find Alumni, I'm going to really suggest that you do this. There are almost 45,000 Titans that you have the opportunity to connect with. If you've got a place in mind that you would like to eventually work or even intern for a summer, you can search by location. Is there anybody in the room who's looking to get outside of the Fox Valley? A few of you? Do you have a city or a state that you're looking for?
Los Angeles.
Name, major, and where you want to go.
Mitchell Jagodinsky. I'm an economics major, and I'm going to Los Angeles.
All right. So if we go to greater Los Angeles area, and I should say, you need to choose the university. If you have had multiple universities, it will default to the one that you're at. Mine is Oshkosh already, so this works for us. because I am an alumni of Oshkosh. So now we're looking in the greater Los Angeles area, and we can narrow it down even more with where they work and what they do. And this would be a great way for you then, if you scroll down, to find some of the people, their name, their position, the year they graduated, and then you have the ability to send requests to connect with them and start building that rapport and that relationship. We don't want you to connect with somebody who you don't know and send a request like, hey, I'm moving to Los Angeles, I need a job, help. I mean, this really is a platform for you to slowly have a courtship, if you will, and really get to know one another, and then you might say to them, okay, we've had this conversation, I'm coming to Los Angeles, you might be getting together, and that may be the time then for you to utilize them a little bit more strongly in your network. I don't know if you want to comment on that as well.
Just maybe the graduation date or year, because that's kind of helpful. I don't know if you would.
Yep,
had
I
touched on that.
mentioned,
Oh,
yep.
sorry.
You can see when they graduated, so your introduction could be immediately you make the connection between I'm a UW Oshkosh student graduating in the next year, looking to move to the Los Angeles area. I see that you're a marketing manager. That's something I aspire to do in the future, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about your position. And that's a great way to start. Any questions about Find Alumni? Powerful, powerful tool.
About 94% of recruiters rely on LinkedIn to find and vet talent. So whether they're looking for you totally out of the blue, or whether you've applied for a job and they want to find out more about who you are, they're going to go to LinkedIn to do that.
Well, I think the nicest thing about LinkedIn in regards to the student space is now when you go on LinkedIn, there's a place for you to put coursework. There's a place for you to put community service. There's a place for you to put all sorts of different skills that traditionally might not fit into that professional experience.
A resume is very bland. They all look the same. It's black and white ink and paper, and where are we going with that? It's just like there's no imagery, there's no personality or brand to that. But your LinkedIn profile can have that. You can have work samples, slideshows, presentations, pictures of themselves doing volunteer activity, white papers, reports, studies. All of these things can become part of your LinkedIn profile to demonstrate the value that you're going to give to the potential employer.
One thing I recommend students do on LinkedIn, for example, is thinking about what it is that they want to do for a career, finding somebody that works in that career on LinkedIn, and then going backwards from there and saying, okay, if I want to be in that career, this is where that person has gone to school. This is where that person has worked. This is the kinds of experiences, whether it's leadership, community, etc. This is how this person has developed from here into there, and that can give you a similar path. If I had to tell a student on LinkedIn, if they don't know how to use it or don't know what to do with it, is to get out there and try to connect with alumni for the schools that they go to. That's a really basic, really simple way to start to build your network. It's a very simple, easy way to introduce yourself to someone. Hey, I go to the school you went to. Are you willing to network? Can I ask you any questions? The worst people can do is say no. And it's amazing what people will do for you in life if you just ask them.
All right, so talking a little bit about connections, the first thing that I always like to remind people, with LinkedIn, it's probably, well, it is very different from any of the other social media platforms where it's not about who can get the most followers or who can get the most connections. You really want to be strategic about the network that you're building. So when you're reaching out to individuals to ask them to connect, think about why you're reaching out to them. Is it because you're an alum and you may have something in common, or do they work in an industry that you're interested in, or do volunteer work that you're interested in? Don't just randomly be connecting for the sake of connecting. Be thoughtful and planful. And I would also say, be thoughtful of the invitations that you're accepting. So just like any other social media, kind of can open us up for, phishing scams and other things. I personally will be really mindful when I get an invite. I prefer when people have a picture. Again, it shows that they are a real person. The avatar just always makes me a little nervous. And again, you want to be mindful. You want to make sure that your network is professional because you want it to be able to represent you. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is LinkedIn etiquette. So when you're sending your connection requests, You're going to have, do you want to bring up a connection request? Or
Yes, and will you talk about what happens
Yep.
on a laptop?
Yep.
And
Yep.
Okay.
So when you go to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to, you're going to get a little chat box that's going to show up that comes with a default message. And we'll show you what that message is in just a second. But the great thing is that you have the opportunity to go in and edit and change that message to make it very personal. I would strongly, strongly recommend that you always do that. I mean, anytime that you're sending an invitation, there's a reason that you're doing that. So, take a moment to introduce yourself. If you're reaching out to that individual because you want a job with their company, that's probably not the place to say that, but you can, introduce yourself. Say, I'm a UW-GB or UW Oshkosh student, and I'm looking for, I'm interested in what you do, and it seems like you have an exciting career. Can you tell me a little bit about how, you got in the field that you did?
I'm already connected to these people, so I have to find someone I'm not connected with, correct?
Yeah. So if you go to your home, it should bring up people that you might know.
There we go.
So. When you hit connect, you'll have a couple options. So it will ask you how you know this person. If it's somebody that, if you select colleague, it's going to ask you to specifically pick what business you worked at that person with, classmate, same thing, what institution you went to with them. So here are your options. Just so you know, and I thought Jennifer brought this up in our last class, I thought it was a really good point. The person that you're connecting with does not have visibility to this. So if you're connecting to somebody because you're both UW Oshkosh alums, and you select that as an option, don't assume that that individual is going to know that because they don't have visibility to that. LinkedIn just tracks that on the back end. So you're still going to want to say in your invite that you're a UW Oshkosh alum and that's why you're reaching out. Oh,
one of the issues that we found with making these requests is if you do it on your mobile device, it doesn't give you the option to put in a tailored message, and that's a problem because there are a lot of people that won't make exceptions, especially if they don't know you or they just met you at a career fair and they don't recognize who you are, and all they're getting is, I'd like to add you to my professional network. Goodbye. So we're asking you to look for a desktop and make those connection requests that way, because then it will allow you to put in, I met you at the career fair on the Fox, we had this conversation, give them some reminders of who you are, and they're much more likely to connect with you in that way.
Okay, so again, when you're just first starting out, you might be wondering, well, who the heck should I connect with? Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but think again about the companies that you're interested in, the industry that you're interested in. You can start doing searches on those, and you're going to find people that you have in common and that you can start to connect with. Again, the alumni tool is also a great way to find people to connect with. So just kind of get creative. The more you go out there and the more you search, it'll just become more intuitive and it'll become a lot easier.
So for the assignment, you need to connect with 10 people. So if you look at your pod, you have 4 to 5 other people that would make a great connection for you. You've got your instructor. So if you need to get started and you're just not sure where to go with this, think about those that are close to you, your pod being one of them, and you need 10 total for the assignment.
And I know we touched on this a little bit, but again, the importance of building that rapport. It doesn't have to be a year-long courtship, but again, starting to have those conversations before you reach out and have the very first conversation be about something that you want from them, it will definitely turn us off. We kind of joke, but it's kind of like asking somebody to marry you on the first date. It's definitely going to put them off a little bit. So just be mindful of that. It is that networking. It's about building relationships. So the earlier you start, the better. So talking about getting a job, we talked a little bit about how many hours our recruiters are spending on LinkedIn. It is definitely an awesome resource when you're starting to do your job search. There are so many recruiters out there, hiring leaders, job opportunities. You really should be taking advantage of those. One of the ways that you can do that, again, is through the companies or doing company searches. Did you want to bring up Schneider's page really quick? Okay, so the majority of the larger companies and even a lot of the smaller companies have LinkedIn pages. It's a nice way outside of a company's website to find out a little bit more about them, find out their culture. What are the things that, that they're posting? For us, we post a lot of things about our associates, press releases, industry news that our audience might find relevant. But you can also find more information about careers on these pages. So if you go to our career page, we have a little bit of branding out here. Why would you want to work for Schneider? But if you go down, you'll be able to see that we have some career opportunities listed over here. Well, if something over here doesn't speak to you, you can click on the See More Jobs. And all of the positions that we currently have open and available and posted anywhere on the internet are going to show up here. So the nice thing is that you're like, well, that's, there's 4,000 jobs. That's kind of a lot. That does include our driving jobs, by the way. I just want to say that because otherwise that would be a lot of jobs just for a company. But you can dig down and do more filtered searches. So if you want to be a little bit more specific about what you're looking for. So again, let's say you're looking for a sales opportunity with us. We can do that. But right now, if I leave it at that, it's going to pull up directors. It's going to pull up a lot of things that maybe at this point in your career you're not quite ready for yet. So you can go down to experience level, and you can pick entry level.
Sorry, internships.
And internships, if that's something that you're also interested in. Now that narrowed it down to 29 positions. So now you're only going to be seeing positions that are sales related, that are either available as an entry level or as an internship. So if you're doing this on a lot of different company pages, it can get to be a little bit overwhelming to try to remember. So you do have this option over in the right-hand side to save your search. And it's going to let you put in some information so that the next time that you go to LinkedIn, if it's 2-3 weeks from now, let's say you've been doing this all day and you've got about 5 or 10 searches in here, you can just keep these in here and you come back and you're going to be able to pull up what those searches are without having to reset all the filters and all of that work that you did on the front end. The other thing that you can do is you can set up alerts, either daily, weekly, or monthly alerts. So if you want to be notified by email anytime that a role with Schneider that meets that criteria appears or opens up, and you want to be notified via email, you can set up those alerts right here too. So it's really nice. It's a good time saver so that you don't have to keep doing the same things over and over again, and you can automate that information to come to you.
So this is a way for you to utilize LinkedIn's, gives you the ability to look for jobs. I suppose you have to, I'm walking. This will default to positions that would be suitable for a college student. So you can go down and click one of the areas, we're really on sales today, and search for those jobs. I was doing this.
Yeah, sometimes it just logs out of.
It's not going to let me. But it will bring up sales positions. So this is something that's changing all of the time. People like Christy are adding things to LinkedIn. They're getting pooled in this job portal, and it gives you the ability to have another way to search for opportunities by industry rather than necessarily going to all kinds of different company pages.
I think that brings us to our last slide.
It is.
All right, so kind of wrapping things up, just some things that I want you guys to be thinking about as you're leaving today. A lot of you, again, I was excited to see that you have LinkedIn profiles. That's awesome. So for those of you who don't, I hope that you're going to leave today and go create awesome profiles. And for those of you who have them, hopefully you'll go home and really beef yours up. But I cannot stress enough the importance of really getting out there, building your profile, and starting to build your network now. We talked a little bit about how you don't want to be having that first or second communication with someone be about a job or a position that you're interested in. So the best way to do that is to start having those conversations now, so that when you get to a point where you are looking for a career, you're looking for a networking in or an opportunity, you already have that relationship built and you have that, that network made. So it's really, really important for you to be able to start doing those things now. And again, take advantage of the groups. We talked a little bit about that, how you can find groups, but there's a lot of benefits, not only to being able to find a career, but to being able to find out, what's going to help you stand out the conversations that you should be having, and also it'll help you stand out as a subject matter expert. Building the strategic network, we talked about the importance of that, not just connecting with anybody, but really, again, honing in on the fact that how many hours just our team is spending on LinkedIn. Now think about all the companies, again, across the US and throughout the world that are using LinkedIn. It really does pay for the effort that you're going to put into making your profile stand out.
So we'll have one more video to recap. Don't pack up after that. I'll talk to you a little bit more about the assignment, but this will give you a recap of.
Here's how to make your profile great. Number 1, pick a professional picture. Not just any picture. No, not that one. More like these. Yes, that's the one. Number 2, write a good headline. Just tell us who you are and what you want to do in 120 characters or less. Yeah, like that. Remember, nothing too personal, nothing too clever. Number 3, tell us about your education. What's your major? What classes did you take? What skills did you develop? C++? Art history? Portuguese history? Quantum thermodynamics? Yes, put those. Number 4, list your experience. Give us your organizations, your achievements, your honors. President of the International Club? Yes. Volunteered building houses? Yes. Invented a cat toy? Yeah, sure, that counts. Number 5, get recommendations. Prove you've got what it takes. Get managers, mentors, and professors to post something that says, this person is smart, hardworking, good-natured, and well-rounded, or something like that. And then you're done. You shout, this is me! You do a celebration dance. You feel good. You stand out. You know you're on your way because there are jobs to be found and recruiters looking to find you as you watch this. That's right now, this very second. What are you waiting for? Go, find, be found.
So really quickly, that one thing in the video that we didn't talk about is that you do have the opportunity to reach out to professors or former employers or colleagues and ask them to recommend you for either educational institutions you've been at or positions that you've held. It's a nice little opportunity for people to be able to provide a short, concise, personal reference. So again, if you think about how many times you put on a resume that personal references available upon request. Well, this is an opportunity where you can just insert that right into your profile. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity.
Here are some recommendations that you can request. The other thing that we didn't touch on that you may see moving forward is LinkedIn does a pop-up message when you enter in pretty much daily to ask you if you want to endorse people. And once we connect, it may want to ask me if I will endorse you. I talked to Christy yesterday, and there's not too much depth to these.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things that people have been endorsing me for that some people I don't even know, so I don't put a lot of credence in them. And Christy said they don't either. They look great. It's nice when you're scrolling through to see, wow, this person's really been endorsed for a lot, but it's not necessarily something that you take extremely seriously.
Correct.